Now, what we want to talk about in this next part of the podcast is how we can keep up with the times. So you mentioned about the fire in your belly and keeping things going and keeping things alive. How can an entire organization keep up with the times when we're going in and delivering training?
Yeah, so I think technology here helps us again. We over the past, I would say the past 2 decades, there's been an explosion in in the number of options for the way that people can learn. We have YouTube and YouTube videos. We have e-learning. We have customers with learning management systems, and so I think there's lots, and so I think that the number of people that sort of go to a classroom in a traditional way to learn new skills is getting less and less each year. And so we have to come up with creative ways to engage in all those different ways of learning. And so certainly e-learning has been around for a while. And I want to talk a little bit about sort of the different terminology that we use in training, because we did a customer survey recently on training, and I distinctly remember a comment from one of the respondents to the survey. We were asking the question about e-learning, and we're asking another question about virtual training, and they say, "Well, isn't e-learning virtual training? Isn't it the same thing?"
Don't say that to go.
Don't say that to me. But it kind of hit me between the eyes to say, well, for those of us that are in this day in, day out, this business of training, we make certain assumptions that we shouldn't. And so I think it'd be good just to, I think help people who are listening to this podcast understand the different terminology that what each of these terms mean. I think e-learning and online learning are a couple of terms that are often misunderstood. On-demand training, online training. So I think, unfortunately, they can sort of cross over. So when you say online training, well, online training could mean that somebody's watching a video, or it could mean that they're with an instructor, really, couldn't it? So we try to make a distinction between these. So when we talk about online training, and you hear that phrase a lot, I need to make sure that people understand, well, now it's virtual training, and in fact, it's virtual instructor-led training. There's an instructor there in the same way that there's an instructor in a classroom. So there's virtual instructor-led training, but e-learning there's been an absolute explosion in e-learning over the past 20 years. There's a company around, I think it's in the mid 90s, called lynda.com, which a lot of people use for online learning, for technology, and it's hugely successful. And then it was bought by LinkedIn. It's now called LinkedIn Learning, and LinkedIn Learning that has, I think, about 30 million users around the world, and of course, LinkedIn was recently purchased about 5 years ago, purchased by Microsoft. So that's the value there, and I think and that option is available. Anyone can find a training course online, and that training course would be for a series of videos and some reading, and maybe, if you're lucky, a hands-on exercise. And that suits a lot of people. I think certainly through the younger generation, going to university, everyone had access to e-learning, and they're used to having access to something like a learning management system, an LMS. And an LMS is just what it implies. It's a system that manages your learning, and lots of organizations, large and small, particularly the larger ones, They seem all to have some kind of LMS in place to help them deliver learning in a modular way to their employee base. And then the last 10 years, you've had companies like Coursera that have come up, but I think they've got about 120 million users, and there's all online learning courses, and they hook up with the universities around the world, and you can get a certificate, a Coursera certificate from Coursera. And so there's all these ways of learning that we need to embrace and take advantage of, and for us as a company, we're developing more and more content that can sit on these learning management systems. So having the same content that we might deliver in person, we create e-learning modules and then let a company host those e-learning modules on their learning management system, so you have access to that learning 24/7, 365 days a year, and that's really
the generation of now, that isn't it? I mean, you talk about 30 million or 120 million, subscribers or users of these different platforms. Impressive numbers, but we are the Netflix generation. We want things on demand. We want to be able to click and press play at whatever time of the day or night, so that we can contribute and learn that way according to our schedule.
Yes,
rather than being bogged down, if that's the words or the phrase, for you to learn something, and it feels like, oh, there's this great big burden. But instead, no, we can go in, we can learn when we want, and tick box, and you're more positive. It's more, I want to do it rather than you being forced to do it, almost.
Yeah, and making it more modular. So I don't learn in 8-hour chunks. I learn in 45-minute chunks. And so give me a 45-minute lesson, and I'll learn it, and I'll apply it, and I'll get better, and I'll come back and learn again. And that's how I think a lot of people would probably prefer to learn. And that kind of slowly incremental step-by-step approach to learning, I think, is something that we as a company need to respond to, and we're always looking at new ways of doing it, making our training more modular. We recently started to launch half-day training courses. I know, yeah, and instead of a half-day training,
impressive.
I know, and
going against what we never used to do.
I know. Well, and it's
the times,
and keeping up with the times, and the first set of courses sold out in about a week. So
amazing.
I think we're onto something. So I think that'll be what I think we'll be seeing more of that in the future.
That is brilliant. Well, doing half-day courses in a virtual environment is so much more sustainable than doing it within a normal traditional classroom like what we know. Because again, you're not having to travel there. You still got half a day to do some project work and still get on with your paid, projects and things. So I can see how that's the trend. But talking about keeping up with the times and being more sustainable, there's this new kind of venture now that you're doing with ebooks.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that.
So we, for every one of our training courses, we make sure that every delegate on the course has training documentation. And so the training notes, they're often official training guides that have been that are designed for that particular authorized training course. Because a lot of people like to read, they learn through reading and studying. We're talking about different learner types earlier. One of those learner types is they're called reading, writing learners, or subject matter expert learners. And they like to, they used to love to take that training manual away from their training course, tucked under their arm. They were going to take it home and study it.
You feel like you've got treasure.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, and I need to read that again. I'm just going to read that again. And they can, if they want to read a paragraph 5 times before they move on, they can. And so So we've always done that. And what we made a decision to do earlier this year is to transfer from providing all those manuals in printed format to all those manuals electronically. And so every one of our courses now has the ebook, the accompanying electronic version of that printed manual. And it's more than just and this is, I'll backtrack a second, this is where technology has helped us because as a publisher, as a publishing company, you wouldn't want to give your book in a PDF format because that it would be a violation of the copyright, and people could distribute it. So ebook's a little bit different than just a PDF version of the printed manual. It's secure. You set up an account, you log in, you've got your little bookshelf, and you can read your ebook on Revit architecture essential skills or some other topic, and then there are lots of things that you can do with an ebook, and you can search it, you can highlight it, you can actually have it read to you if you're really busy, or if you're on a long road trip and you want to listen to a book on Revit. Now, I'm not sure many people do that, but you could if you wanted to. There are lots of things that you can do with that ebook, and of course, it's sustainable, and it's working smarter too from our standpoint. Within someone booking on a training course, or say a course starts at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning, at 9:35 we can issue ebooks to everybody, and they're available immediately. So there's no shipping, there's no printing.
Save a lot of cost, and it's definitely more sustainable. You're saving yourself thousands of books that you would have had to kind of manage, and it's freeing up someone's time to do something else that might be more beneficial as well.
It's smarter
instead of ordering, etc. Definitely smarter, definitely more sustainable, and definitely a way for us to remind ourselves to always listen to what's happening, be agile to the market, and be able to perform for our customers. And it sounds like you've done all of that.
And if we have 3 people in India attending a training course, you press a button and they can have their ebooks in a couple of minutes. And what a great way of working. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Gordon, for going through training trends and what it's like now within our training environments and within the globe, essentially, of how we're performing training or giving training to those who come to us with requests to train. Any final thoughts or comments on training trends that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I think we're paying attention to the changes as a company. We make sure that we adapt and we change with the times and with the changing tastes and moods of our customers. I think for me, one of the big things moving forward will continue to be virtual training. Will continue to be modular training. I think training will get more modular, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. How can we keep pace with our customers, and as the way that they want to learn changes, we'll make sure that we're right there changing with them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I love that. Looking to see how we can help our customers, working with our customers to make something better for them, as moving along as well in a more sustainable and smarter manner. Well, Gordon, thank you very much for joining me on this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can talk to you for ages on training trends, but we do have to finish it there.
Okay. Sorry, Jill. Thanks for having me. It's been great talking to you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening in to this podcast, and see you in the next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.